Here is something that might surprise you. That constant need to clear your throat, that sticky feeling of mucus sitting at the back of your throat that never quite goes away. In most cases, it is not coming from your throat at all. Let me say that again, because it matters. The problem you feel in your throat usually begins somewhere else entirely. And if you have been clearing your throat for months, maybe even years, the real cause may be something nobody has ever taken the time to explain to you. I am Dr. Emily Brooks, and on this channel, I walk you through what the research actually says about your body in plain language with no confusing jargon. And today's topic is one I get asked about constantly. According to the clinical guidelines from the American College of Chest Physicians, published in the journal Chest, what doctors call upper airway cough syndrome, the medical name for chronic post-nasal drip, is the single most common cause of a lingering cough and throat clearing in adults. And here is the part that stuns people. The research summarized in those same guidelines found that roughly 20% of people who have this dripping mucus do not even feel it dripping. Their body just keeps quietly reacting to it. Before we go further, do me a quick favor. Comment your age below and tell me how long you have been dealing with throat mucus. It genuinely helps me understand who I am talking to today. Here is my promise. I am going to walk you through the 5 most powerful causes and fixes, ranked from the most foundational to the most life-altering. Each one matters more than the last. And number 5 is where almost everyone needs to start, while number 1 is the fix that, for so many people over 60, quietly changes everything. Whatever you do not skip number 1, because it targets a hidden change happening in your body right now that you have probably never been told about. Let's begin with number 5, the foundation everything else is built on: hydration. Your mucus is mostly water, well over 90% of it. Sitting just beneath that mucus is a thin, watery layer, and resting in that layer are millions of microscopic hairs called cilia that beat in waves, like a field of wheat in the wind, sweeping mucus up and away so you swallow it without ever noticing. When you are even mildly underhydrated, that watery layer thins out, your mucus turns thick and sticky, and those little hairs can no longer move it. So it pools right at the back of your throat, and you feel that endless need to clear it. This isn't guesswork. A 2020 study published in the European Respiratory Journal isolated what actually controls this sweeping system and found that mucus hydration was one of the strongest predictors of how well the airway cleared itself. When the surface dried out and the mucus thickened, clearance collapsed by nearly 89%. And when researchers restored that surface fluid, transport sped back up by roughly 90%. A broader 2022 review in Physiological Reviews from the American Physiological Society confirms the principle in plain terms. How well hydrated your mucus is directly governs how thick it gets and how easily your body moves it out. Picture someone like Margaret, a hypothetical 68-year-old who sips coffee all morning but barely touches water, and who clears her throat constantly by mid-afternoon. If she simply spread plain water through her day, the likely result is thinner mucus that finally clears on its own, no medicine required. That is how foundational this is. And here is why this hits harder after 60. As we age, our sense of thirst actually fades. Your body needs water, but stops reminding you. Total body water drops, and many older adults take blood pressure pills or water pills that pull even more fluid out. So the very people most bothered by throat mucus are often the most quietly dehydrated. Start today at zero cost. Keep a glass or bottle nearby and sip steadily rather than gulping all at once. Aim for pale, straw-colored urine as your simple gauge. Warm fluids, plain water, broth, herbal tea loosen mucus especially well. And go easy on extra coffee and alcohol, which gently dry you out. Now, number 4, and this one is more important because you are exposed to it every single hour. Your nose and sinuses quietly produce more than a liter of mucus a day, and normally you swallow all of it without a clue. But when the lining of your nose gets irritated by dry indoor air, dust mites in bedding, pet dander, pollen, smoke, or strong scents, it does two things. It swells, and it ramps up mucus production. Suddenly, that quiet, invisible drip becomes a thick stream you feel at the back of your throat all day. Doctors call this rhinitis, which simply means an inflamed nose. Research on rhinitis in older adults estimates that somewhere between 3 and 12% of seniors have allergic rhinitis, and it is widely under-recognized because we assume allergies are a young person's problem. And in a clinical series of patients with this exact chronic upper airway picture, published in 2020, the most common complaints were a runny nose in about 62% and post-nasal drip in around 54%, pointing straight back to the nose as the true source of throat mucus. Cigarette smoke deserves a special mention here too, because it is one of the harshest irritants of all and directly cripples that ciliary sweeping system. Picture someone like Robert, a hypothetical 71-year-old whose bedroom runs dry all winter from the heater and hasn't had the bedding washed hot in months. He wakes congested with a throat full of mucus every morning. If he added moisture to the air and cut down the dust, the likely result is a calmer nose and far less morning drip. Why does this sharpen after 60? The lining of your nose naturally thins and dries with age, so it is more easily irritated. Seniors also spend more time indoors, often in heated or air-conditioned rooms that strip humidity out of the air. Free steps you can take tonight. Add humidity. Even a wide bowl of water near a radiator helps if you don't own a humidifier. Wash your bedding in hot water weekly to knock down dust mites. Open a window to air the room out. Avoid spray cleaners, aerosols, and smoke. And if pollen is your trigger, a quick rinse-off shower before bed keeps it out of your sheets. Number 3 is more important than it looks, because acting on it can actually harm you. Here it is. The belief that milk and dairy create phlegm in your throat. You have heard it your whole life. Cut out dairy and the mucus disappears. The mechanism people imagine is that milk somehow thickens the slime in your airways. But that is not what happens. When researchers actually measured it, milk did not increase mucus secretion at all. What it does is leave a creamy coating that mixes with your saliva, and that texture makes your existing mucus feel thicker for a moment, a feeling, not more mucus. Dr. Ian Balfour-Lynn, a pediatric pulmonologist at the Royal Brompton Hospital in London, reviewed studies going all the way back to 1948 in the Journal Archives of Disease in Childhood in 2019 and concluded the milk and mucus link is a myth that should be put to rest. He even traced the chemistry. A milk protein called beta-casomorphin 7 can nudge mucus, but it does so in the bowel, not in your airways. A separate randomized placebo-controlled trial that gave participants cow's milk versus a milk-free substitute found no difference in respiratory symptoms or lung function at all. And yet the belief is everywhere. In one survey, 58% of parents were convinced milk increased mucus, and in Australian research, around 30% of the population believed milk produces phlegm. The myth is winning, even though the science says otherwise. Picture someone like Susan, a hypothetical 64-year-old who gave up cheese and milk for years, chasing relief that never came. If her real trigger turned out to be heavy late-night dinners stirring up reflux, which is exactly where we are heading next, then all those years of avoiding dairy did nothing but cost her. Here is why this matters so much after 60. Your need for calcium and protein actually rises with age to protect your bones and muscle. Cutting out dairy on a false belief can quietly speed up bone loss and muscle loss, trading an imaginary fix for a real risk. So at zero cost, don't reflexively ban dairy. If you truly suspect a food trigger, keep a simple notebook for 2 weeks. Write what you eat and when your throat acts up, and let the pattern reveal itself instead of guessing. If the creamy texture bothers you, just sip water afterward. Number 2 is one of the most overlooked causes of throat mucus in people over 60, and it is sneaky because it often comes with no heartburn at all. It is called silent reflux, or laryngopharyngeal reflux. Here is the mechanism in plain English. Contents from your stomach, acid, plus a digestive enzyme called pepsin, travel up past your esophagus and reach your throat and voice box. Even a tiny amount of pepsin irritates that delicate lining, and your throat responds the only way it knows how. It makes mucus to protect itself. The result is thick throat mucus, constant throat clearing, and that maddening feeling of a lump in your throat. Doctors call it globus. This is far more common than people realize. A review in the journal Gastroenterology and Hepatology reports that silent reflux accounts for about 10% of all ear, nose, and throat visits, and is found in roughly 50% of patients who come in with voice complaints. A 2024 population study using a standard reflux symptom score found signs of it in about 31% of the people surveyed. And in clinical series, that lump in the throat sensation and excess throat mucus are among the most frequently reported symptoms of all. Picture someone like David, a hypothetical 70-year-old who clears his throat constantly, but has never once had heartburn, so reflux never crossed his mind. His symptoms flare after late dinners and when he lies down at night. If he stopped eating close to bedtime and raised the head of his bed, the likely result is a throat that finally settles. Why is this an over 60 problem? The valve between your stomach and esophagus naturally weakens with age, and digestion slows. In fact, one study of silent reflux in older adults found that only about 40% of elderly patients had normal esophageal muscle function, compared with over 70% of younger patients, so more reflux reaches the throat more easily. Free steps starting tonight. Finish eating at least 3 hours before bed. Eat smaller meals rather than large ones. Raise the head of your bed about 6 inches. Sturdy books under the bedposts work fine. Don't lie down right after eating, and ease up on late coffee, alcohol, and very fatty meals. This is number 1, and it ties everything together. 2 things are happening at once. First, chronic inflammation in your nose and sinuses, that rhinitis and sinusitis we touched on, keeps producing excess mucus that drips down the back of your throat all day. Chronic sinus inflammation is genuinely common, with studies estimating it affects somewhere between 6 and 27% of people. Second, and this is the part nobody warns you about, the tiny cilia that are supposed to sweep that mucus away slow down as you age, so you get more mucus arriving and slower clearance carrying it off. More in, less out. That is the recipe for mucus that never seems to leave. The aging part is measurable. Researchers have found that the beat frequency of these little hairs slows from about 14.6 beats per second in people under 35 to roughly 12.9 beats per second in those over 65. In one study, the time it took to clear the nose stretched from about 8.5 minutes in younger adults to over 10.5 minutes in older adults. Your mucus is literally moving slower than it used to. So what actually works? The fix with the strongest evidence is beautifully simple. Saline nasal irrigation, rinsing your nose with salt water. It physically washes out the mucus, the allergens, and the irritants, thins what's left, and helps revive that ciliary sweeping. The strongest trial, summarized in American Family Physician, found that people who added a daily saline rinse to their usual care had a 64% improvement in overall symptom severity compared with usual care alone, with the benefit still holding many months later. A 2016 Cochrane review reached the same conclusion. Large volume saline rinsing improves both symptoms and quality of life. Picture someone like Helen, a hypothetical 73-year-old who has lived with throat mucus for a decade. If she began rinsing once a day, the likely arc over a few weeks is steadily less mucus and far less throat clearing, a quiet, daily habit doing what years of cough drops never could. So let's bring it home. Number 5. Stay hydrated because thin mucus clears itself and thick mucus pools. Number 4. Fix the air around you. Humidity, dust, and irritants quietly drive that drip. Number 3. Drop the dairy myth, because cutting milk on a false belief can cost your bones and muscle while doing nothing for mucus. Number 2, consider silent reflux, the heartburn-free cause hiding in plain sight in so many older adults. And number 1, a daily saline rinse, the most evidence-backed fix of all, working against the natural slowdown of your body's own cleaning system. Here is what I want you to carry with you. Improvement is possible at any age. Your body is not broken, it is asking for the right kind of help, and every single step here is something you can start at little or no cost, beginning today. So tell me in the comments, which one will you start first, and what is your single biggest challenge in sticking with it? I read these, and your answer might be exactly what helps someone else scrolling by. If this helped you understand your own body a little better, please like this video, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and share it with someone who is always clearing their throat. They will thank you, because you are never too old to feel better, and the smallest daily habit, done with care, can quietly change everything.